You just saw that I stopped sharing my screen because we still have 2 questions which were left for before, but I just see we have around 10-15 minutes left and our question inbox is pretty full. So it's going to be rapid fire round, Mr. Sterling, for you. We're going to go fast because we have really people from Ukraine, India, Russia, Europe, South Africa on the call with us today. I've seen some people are joined us even from South America. We have very well-established immigration experts on the panel too. Thank you, Phil, for joining us. Really, really appreciate it. And maybe I should start with Phil's question. So Phil's question for you is, what share ownership will you take in a project in return for your financial support?
Great question. So this is the how long is a piece of string answer. So it really depends upon any time, and this is not to start a visa, anytime we start negotiating with a company in terms of, what are we going to get for our investment? It always comes down to what are we valuing the company at today? And so this is a part of a challenge, kind of a bit of a challenge for us. We need to evaluate your company today. And so we've got some really interesting terms in our term sheet that are really beneficial for the entrepreneur so that we can get over that discussion very, very quickly. So we want to make sure we come to a number, we say, look, this is kind of reasonable, and know that, we're going to you're going to grow the company between now and when we make the investment. So we've got, we sort of do a little bit of projection, a little bit of evaluation today. And we, really the best way to value a company only comes from experience. It's only come from doing it. I have entrepreneurs come to me and they say, oh, my accountant says I should be valued at XYZ. And I said, okay, well, is your accountant prepared to write you a check? Oh, no, he doesn't invest. Well, then I don't care what his number is. Yeah. So the only credible valuations you're going to get in an early stage finance is from somebody who's willing to write a check. Otherwise, it's just some theoretical number based on some calculation of some book that they read. It has nothing to do with the current market sentiment, the current market trends, your industry you're going after, the technology. There's so many things that we look at, and we've evaluated, like I said, I've sat through 4,000 to 5,000 presentations. I get a pretty good handle on what something's worth early in the market versus later. It is a negotiation, but it's something that we've done many, many times. We've supported almost 100 companies in the startup visa program over the last 2 years. So we've allocated $7.5 million towards early stage companies here in the startup visa program. So we've been there, done that, know what we're doing. We've never had an issue coming to a number that's fair between us and the entrepreneurs.
I'll just add an anecdote here. Thank you for teaching me when I was an angel investor, joined you 7 years ago, how to learn the valuation of the company when I'm putting my money. I must tell you now, I use it on the other side to negotiate with the investors on behalf of my clients to get them right investment and right valuation. So whatever you taught me on the other side as an investor, I'm using now with my founders to make sure they have the right valuation and they give tiny bit of their company only for the money they are raising.
Right.
Okay. So I have another question here is, we have this from Mahendra. I think so there are a lot of questions, so I will go. Mahendra has joined us from Mumbai. He is a founder of an ed tech cap startup. And he's saying his pitch deck and business plan is ready. Now he knows to know is, do we need to set up a company in Canada as an essential step forward participation in the startup visa process? Does Keiretsu do seed funding?
Yes, we do seed funding. And yes, you will at some point need to set up a Canadian entity. Why? Because our investors are investing in the Canadian company. So we need to have a Canadian company in order to write a term sheet between our investors and that company. We can't write an investment into some international company because that's not the program. The program is the government wants us investing in a Canadian I call them new to Canada companies. So sometimes you have an existing business wherever you're operating around the world, can be very successful businesses. We've supported companies that are doing 20, 30 million a year already in their home country, but they want the market opportunity that Canada provides. They want the schooling, they want the healthcare, they want all the good things that come with living in Canada. So they want to move their business in whole or in part, or start a new division of their company in Canada. But our investment, our term sheet must go into the Canadian company. So you have to have a Canadian company to take that investment and to sign the term sheet. So yes, you don't have to do it immediately. We actually do that typically as part of the process to make sure that's in place. So you don't have to worry too much about that before you get started. I would say start the process work with IQ, you get them to assess where you are. If you're ready, start the process with us, and then we'll get the Canadian corporation set up in due process.
I'll just add a little clarification. Though under the startup visa process, it is not mandatory to have your own startup incorporated in Canada to be eligible for the program. But as Kevin said, if the investor has to commit investment, they are not putting investment in an individual, they are putting an investment in a Canadian company. Now, for them to sign a term sheet where they're confirming their investment, that entity has to exist. So by the time you get a letter of support from a designated entity, which is an angel investor group or a VC group, and a term sheet is being signed, technically you need a Canadian company incorporated, because it is that legal entity which they are going to sign. So even if the program does not require, but you need that company incorporated to get the letter of support. As we know, we have in this webinar, not all, we have entrepreneurs, we have startup founders, we also have some of the leading Canadian immigration consultants on the call. I already asked a question from Phil Mooney before. I have another question from Mr. Chintan Patel, who is also an immigration consultant. His question is, what kind of businesses are accepted under the startup visa? And what he's trying to clarify, his question is, what is the criteria to be accepted under the startup visa?
Okay, well, the startup, if you're talking about the startup visa program itself, which is, it's pretty generic. I mean, that's the one of the biggest challenges we have. You have to prove that you're innovative. Okay, so where is the innovation coming? And sometimes we can help with that. It's a quick side note. We've supported companies that are coming in, they have a traditional business and it's not super innovative, and it's probably going to result in 90% of the revenue in Canada, but we need something innovative to hang the application on. So it's super important because listen, even if you're a big company and you're starting some innovative new product, it's not going to overnight turn into the number one moneymaker, but maybe it's a transitional period into a more high-tech type product. So you need to prove innovation, and we can assist with that. And innovation isn't always the product, by the way. It can be a new business model. Think about Uber. Uber, I mean, it's just a taxi service that has an app, right? So taxi service is not innovative, but Uber, the way they've done it, is innovative. So you think about that, you think about all aspects of your business to prove innovation. Number two, you have to prove that there's a market for what you're offering in Canada to begin with. And number three, you have to prove that there's a market outside of Canada so you can scale globally. This program is really about building companies that can scale. And the Canadian government recognizes that in a country of 30 odd million,
37, 40.
Yeah. So it's, we need to access international markets. You can build a great business here, but we want to know that there's other opportunity. And a lot of people are coming here to access the US, of course, but also access back in their home country. So don't limit yourself just to Canada in terms of market growth. Think about a global perspective. And we support everything. So in terms of businesses, totally sector agnostic. It can be everything from cattle feed, right, to a children's toy, to a Internet of Things connected device, to AI robotics. Everything you can think about, we've supported at Keiretsu.
Perfect. I have next question from Mauricio. Thank you, Mauricio, for joining us from Chile. He's a very driven founder. I've had the opportunity to have a call with him before. Mauricio's question is, for you as an investor, a company that raised 100K and have 2 MVPs and in the process of developing the final product would be eligible without having launched the final product yet? Very good question, because this is somewhere before getting the market validation in terms of getting the money in pre-revenue. What can they still apply?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I like what you've said. Number one, you've already received some investment. So somebody somewhere looked at you, did whatever diligence they do, and they said, I'm going to write this guy a check. So I like that. I like the fact that there's an MVP, maybe a second MVP. So you've already taken the original one. Yeah. Presumably now you've improved upon it. Maybe it's really the third one that you're going to take to market. But what I would encourage you to have some level of even freemium type offering, in-field testing, those types of things to support that product. So if you're not currently in market, give me something that you've given it to a prospective customer of some description to try it, to play with it, to feedback it, whatever it is. I'm looking, and that can be just as valuable, right? Sometimes people don't want to, they don't want to unveil the product too quickly before they're ready. Maybe they're waiting for a patent to clear, who knows, or a patent application. So you want to keep it a little bit under wraps. That's not a problem, but try to get a little bit of market validation, even if that's a free review or a development partner who's in the market, a prospective client. That's what we're looking for in terms of, very early stage market validation.
Okay, that's perfect. So next question I have is from Jason. So yeah, Mauricio, don't worry. If you want to come, you can come because you are beyond idea stage. You've already raised money. That's kind of for market validation, even if you're pre-revenue. So I have Jason who's asking, Kevin, first of all, he's thanking you for your time. Thank you, Jason. I've been doing that since morning. So thank you for acknowledging that. So how would pivoting the core business after MVP and market validation be handled from the angel investors' perspective and from IRCC's perspective? What do you think about that?
Listen, we're in the business of pivots. I'll be totally honest. There is very rarely you see a company come to us at the beginning when I first see them, and 3 years later, 2-3 years later, they're doing exactly what they said they were going to do, exactly the way they said they were going to do it.
Yeah.
There is always a pivot. This is the world of early stage finance. This is why the team is so important. The team tells us that, you know what, if this is our plan A, right? But we've got a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, and there's other plans we haven't even thought of yet because we don't need to. But the team is resilient. The team can make a change. In fact, this is what the government of Canada is investing in. Let's be frank. The success rate of early stage startup companies is relatively low.
Oh.
If you look at any VC investment portfolio who invest hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in due diligence to find the best deals to invest in. Out of every 10 companies they invest in, 1 or 2 will be winners, right? 3 or 4 will kind of be neutral, and the rest will be dead. They'll be losers. So, everybody knows this is high risk stakes. This is where we are. Now, it might be the next Uber, or it might be the next Silicon Valley Bank. No, I don't know. Who knows what that next company is going to be? But the point is the team resilient, and are they able to pivot? So yes, pivoting is no problem. And listen, we all just came through life-changing world global pandemic. Who didn't have to pivot their business at some point during the last couple of years in order to survive? But that survival is important and sometimes relies on a pivot. So absolutely, pivots are welcome.
And I would just add to what Kevin is saying. We are submitting a business plan. The word is plan. Plans change. You have made a plan based on your market research, what you know about Canada. When you enter the market, there's so many factors which were unknown to you. The amount, the cost it is. Maybe you do the first market test and your product blows up. Your competition analysis was not there. As long as you know what you're doing, it's going to be a viable business. The innovation, maybe you redefine your innovation. There is nothing ironclad here. You're running a business, and if you're not going to pivot as the things changes, as market changes, as product changes, you're not even going to survive in the market. I have a next question from Praveen Mahendra. I can take this, Kevin. Is a Canadian citizen be a partner along with foreign citizen when in a startup? Yes, Praveen, as long as the requirement for the program is that the founders have the majority equity in the company, who are applicants under the startup visa program, they have majority equity. You can have Canadian citizen who is a non-applicant at the startup visa as a co-founder. This is a question from Phil again. Are the angel investors regulated? Phil, there is a criteria that you need to be accredited to be investing as an angel investor, but Kevin can take more details on that.
Yeah, so to be a part of an angel group, first of all, we are an angel group. We do operate as a not-for-profit. We are governed. Actually, we're part of 2 different groups, sort of global, higher level groups. Angel Investors Ontario, right, who operate in our province here, and also NACO, National Angel Capital Organization. So both of those are the overall governing bodies, if you will, of individual angel groups, and we're members of both of those, members of good standing in both those organizations. Secondly, to be a member of our organization, you need to be an accredited investor. That means you need to pass certain criteria of being a high net worth individual. This is there to protect the investors, because and the companies as well, because you don't want somebody investing their last dollar in an early stage, high risk venture. You want to make sure that they've got enough means that if a deal fails, if that investment does not go the way they want it to go, they're not going to be destitute. They're not going to be, without capital. So you need to pass certain accreditation levels, and that's set out by the Canadian government, and all of our members comply with that, our investing members.
Perfect. Thank you. The next question I have is from Sandeep. Sandeep, actually, we have answered this question before, but it's a very valid question as it was discussed. In exchange for your financial support, what minimum ownership stake you are taking in the it's willing to accept? As Kevin answered, it depends how we do the valuation of the company. It's a negotiation process. Based on your negotiation and you come with the valuation, the amount of equity or the shares taken in a company or ownership stake taken in the company depends how much is the investment versus what is the valuation. It's a little bit of a more technical process, but yes, with both sides negotiating, this can be done very well. We have next question from Gonzalo Hernandez. Kevin,
just one quick comment on that.
Sure, please.
We'll always be minority owners, a very minority. So I think our typical range, I like to give, I'm going to give you specifics here. Our typical range, I think the lowest we've invested is maybe 4% equity, and then the largest we've received back is just under 20. So that's a big range. But that's the low and that's the lowest and the highest that we've ever done in nearly 100 deals to date. So very easy to figure that out, and we'll work with you on that.
That's a very valuable information. You're not giving 100% of your company to angels. They will always be minority. As Kevin said, depending on the valuation, it can range from 44% to 20%. The next question, Kevin, is there for you. Is there a special process for startups that have went through Keiretsu process in the past? I don't know how you're going to interpret the question.
Again, is there
process?
Is there a special process
that have, maybe you can tell them about your due diligence process? What do you need to do to go?
Listen, if you started with us previously and things got off the rails for whatever reason, and you want to get them back on the rails, for sure, always open to restart things. Obviously, we liked it enough the first time, but sometimes what happens, in the course of things, the founders change, things go on hold. We're waiting for something. We reply, maybe the IELTS score, the language scores got delayed. There's a whole bunch of things that can derail or sideline an opportunity for a period of time. And yeah, if you want to restart at any point, please just reach out directly to our group. We're happy to get things, get them, put the jumper cables on it and get going again.
Sure. I have another question from Mothas Shorke. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. And I think so I can do that because most of the time my name is pronounced incorrectly. So I'm sorry if I'm doing it, but it's not easy to get paid by Canadian customers while we are out of Canada. Alternatively, can we prove the market validation or traction through Canadian potential customer feedback? Very good question. And I think so it's very valid. It's a genuine problem. People won't pay you if not in Canada. How do you show Canadian validation?
Yeah, well, two things for validation. Number one, you can validate within your own country. I mean, listen, that's where I would start. I mean, unless your country doesn't, there's some sort of restriction there that you can't sell it within your country, or it's too competitive, or what you've developed doesn't fit the marketplace. So, start at home, and that's a good place to cut your teeth. The second thing is, yeah, you can definitely work through, and that's with the great, I guess, how IQ can really assist as well, is, you have some feet on the street here. You have some agents. I shared with you a quick anecdote of a company we're helping out of India who went 0 for 350 emails they sent out. They could not get a meeting. We have 6 meetings already lined up. Why? Because we're already here in Canada. We have a network established. So, we can help find sample customers, and yes, feedback, freemium type feedback. There's lots of companies out there interested in understanding what's happening in terms of innovation around the world. You just got to get in front of those people and give them an opportunity to review your product or service. And then, yes, that's very valid when it comes to proving product market fit for a Canadian marketplace.
Okay. Great. I have another question for Vasu Savaj, but I think so we have answered it. So you just take a second. Does Keiretsu only invest in revenue generating startup MVP stage? Also, they invest in startups at a prototype stage with no revenue user base. We have answered this in various versions, but if you want to give a last sentence on this.
Yes. That's the answer.
I think Okay.
I mean, listen, if you've got something, if you like, look, I've created this, I've got this great idea, I've created a prototype. Sometimes these MVPs are not cheap to make, right? I mean, sometimes they take some capital to put together. So I understand it. What you built so far is really kludgy and ugly and not, nowhere near ready to show the public. But if you can show us at a lab scale, or even at a very small scale, this is what you've been doing and how it's you plan it to work. Yeah, that can be enough. I mean, you're gonna have to support that with the market is big enough. There's this is how we differentiate from the competition, et cetera, et cetera. So you're going to want to put the emphasis, and this is what we work on when we're coaching. You want to put the emphasis on in your company where your strengths lie. So if your strength is, we have 4 nuclear engineers, right? We know the market, and we've got a brand new model and rocket engine that we're building, right? But we don't have the capital to build the engine, but we've got the background. Hey, lean on that background, lean on that experience, lean on the brains of the operation. If the other thing side might be true to say, look, we know the market. We've been selling in this market for 30 years. I know exactly what the customers need, right? But we're not that technical group. So we can define the product. We know exactly what it should look like, but now we've got to go build it, with a technical team. So lean on your background, your experience, your contacts, your history there. So there's all kinds of things that you can think about but put the emphasis on where your strengths lie.
Great. I have this question from Pooja. This is very medtech specific. So if you can answer, what all certificates are required for a medtech startup company dealing in non-invasive devices? It's a very
non-invasive. I mean, it depends how non-invasive, of course, but you're looking at, class 2 or whatever type medical devices. We do, I should say that, we're sector agnostic, but about 30% of the deals that we invest in at Keiretsu, about a third, are life sciences. So we do everything there. We do med tech all the time, medical devices all the time, pharma, diagnostics, therapeutics. We do it all here at Keiretsu. So we can help and we have lots of experience in helping you understand what that regulatory pathway looks like. It's different for different countries. So some even Canadian companies, listen, they say, I'm going to start in the US. I'm going to go for FDA approval right away. Some others say, I want to go through a faster, maybe slightly less cumbersome pathway through the CE mark. So in Canada and Europe. So there's different pathways for different markets, and it really depends upon what your company is doing and how far along you are. But we can assist with, we have members that do this for a living that actually put together regulatory strategies for companies. So we can connect you with the right people to walk you through exactly what needs to be done.
Awesome, thank you. Then I have a question from Ali Slayman. He says, how does it work for you if you don't have a business yet, but rather an idea? That is a doctor in the Middle East with a plan. How does it work? You contact IQ, Ali. We'll take care of it from there. Yep. Then we have a question from Anton Schutten. How does it work in case of organization process? We'll talk. This is more about our fee structure, Anton. I'll take it over later with you. Uros will get in touch with you. Vasu has another question for us. In early stage startups, one of the drawback is they don't have enough user base to justify, or nearly no user base enough, though, with the finest and greatest idea. How do you approach these kind of startups? There's no user base.
Small current user base or small prospective user base?
I think so, Vasu, if you can redefine your question, I will ask. Next question I have from Ramesh.
Well, I'll answer.
Sure.
I'll answer real quick.
So
if it's a small prospective market base, meaning your prospective client universe is small, then that's going to be a problem, truthfully. You need to look at adjacent markets. You need to look at ways to increase the size of the market that you're addressing. Either that with now you can say we're starting in this very small market with a very specific product, but we know that we can take this product and with a quick little pivot, move it into this giant, market that is much larger and adjacent to what we're currently doing. So that's okay. But addressing and attacking a very small market is going to be a challenge, because the investors will do we'll say, well, what if you get 5%? But if it's 5% of a very small market, there's not enough money there to keep the company afloat. So now if you say if what you asked is the other thing, we have a very small user base right now, a very small focus, sort of alpha type user base. No problem. That's great. That's the best way to figure out what your product is and what you need to do and change to make it really scale. So that's all good. Get that feedback, really get that validation, get testimonials from those customers, use that feedback to drive the next iteration of your company forward. That is super valuable, and we love to see that.
Perfect. Because it's 11:45, we're 15 minutes over the allotted time, but thank you, Kevin. I'll just take last two questions. Okay. We have a question from Ramesh. He says, how do you valuation of the individual capabilities for Startup Visa program?
The individual capabilities of the applicants?
Yeah, I think so. They look first into your CV, your profile, and how you answer the question. It's not they're going to ask you for your transcripts or documents for your education. That's more of an immigration lawyer's part when they submit their application to IRCC, but definitely Keiretsu would like to know the basic requirements. Have you taken IELTS? Do you have the settlement funds? Those are more of the valuation, but then it's more focused on who you are and what you bring to the table. And as Kevin said, which is the team, who are in the team, which is going to take the business through. Kevin.
Yeah, and so we look at resumes. We do an independent evaluation as well. It's a test that takes about 10 minutes, just to give us a sense of where you are in your skill set, right, and what type of thinker you are. So we walk you through that. So we have a few different independent reviews that we do. We've got, like I said, we look at your resumes, we look at you as part of the team, and importantly, like I said, earlier on, if you started late, it's not just who you are and what your team brings to the table. It's also recognizing what you need once you land here. So if you we need help with accounting, we need help with sales and marketing strategies, we need help with technological growth, AI developers, who knows what you need. Don't be afraid to list those. Don't be afraid to say this is what we need. And in fact, reach out to the investment community and say, hey, maybe some of you folks have some of these skills that we need. So come and invest, and then come help the company grow. So it's a strategy we often use. We were looking to invest, but we're also looking to assist these companies. So maybe we can fill some of those holes that you're looking for through an advisory role.
I'm going to take a segue from what you said. Tell us, what do you need? Actually, Rail Logistics, Alexander Schultz has the same question. Does Startup Visa program include compensation for housing rent? He needs that. So
no,
answer is no.
It doesn't include compensation for housing rent. You need to, one of the things you have to prove to the government is that you have settlement funds. So this is a program, it's not huge numbers, but you need to be able to support yourself when you're here. Everybody knows that, you're not going to land tomorrow and make a sale the next day and be in a profit, day 3. It's going to take some time. You need to have the financial wherewithal to support yourself for a certain period of time in order for you to get your feet under you and get the company going and start delivering profits and revenue. So, that's part of the requirement that we didn't set. The government set that, and it's something that you need to be able to. You definitely a hurdle you have to be able to get over. But we cannot assist that. We cannot provide capital so you meet the minimum settlement funds. You need to bring that to the table yourself. Think of it as investors too. I want to make sure that you've got enough money to survive. I don't want to be putting money in the company and then all the money I put into the company goes to groceries. You're supposed to be building the technology, not buying groceries with the capital that we're putting in. So it's really, we want to make sure that you can survive, and the money we're putting in is actually growth capital for the company.
The last question I'm going to take, Anirudh, but the question you have asked is something I think so the entire world is trying to find an answer. So I'm not sure in the last 30 seconds if Kevin can answer. This could be the most difficult question anybody could be asked in light of Silicon Valley debacle. What steps an investor should take while investing in the Canadian market, given the volatility of the world market, and how the investors can save their money? I'm sure everybody's trying to find an answer to this question. And Kevin, if you can say just your thought process on that.
There's one word, and everybody will say it's all the time: diversity. You need a diverse strategy. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, because then you're in real trouble if that basket, fails. And listen, I'm invested in personally 35 different companies. I've invested in We're part of a group that have invested in every single startup visa company. I'm into 96 startup visa companies. I'm into 300 early stage companies through some early stage funds. Some of those funds, like I don't know enough about blockchain, right? So how do you make money in blockchain? I know it's going to be big. I just don't know which companies are going to be there, right? Who knows? I mean, I don't know. So I invested in a fund that's going to invest in other funds that invest in the best blockchain companies. So my one investment gets me into about 300 different companies. I probably only have $1,000 in each of these companies. I mean, some tiny amount of money, right? So at the end of the day, in 10 years, I might be like, wow, imagine if I invested 50,000 in that one particular winner. Of course, but you don't know. It's a pick 'em, right? Who knows which is going to be successful and which isn't? The key there is diversity. And we love diversity as investors by sector. So we talked about being sector agnostic. I'm invested in a number of different sectors. I don't just pick one and ride that horse, because those sectors can go cold. Whole sectors can go cold. So choose a diversity of sectors. And I like diversity of location. That's why we're looking at all these new to Canada companies. I love seeing applications from around the world. We've had, like I said, 123 different companies, countries.
Yeah.
Apply, over 2,200 formal applications for support. So, really, we see a lot of deal flow, and I love investing in international entrepreneurs. It really is how Canada is going to grow. And that's why this program is so important to Canada, because we're attracting the economic drivers of tomorrow for Canada. That's really what we're doing through the Startup Visa program. We're finding, hopefully, and supporting as needed, the companies that are going to grow the Canadian economy in the next decades to come.
On that note, thank you so much, Kevin. I would apologize to the attendees whose questions I couldn't take, because I knew we are still 20 minutes over. This means, Kevin, we need to bring you back. There's still so many questions which are unanswered here. Maybe, I promise, I will make sure he gives us another hour out of his super busy schedule in a couple of months. It was sheer pleasure always talking to you. It's been a learning experience for me, and I'm sure all the attendees got to have the same today. Thank you for sharing your very valuable and very intelligent insights with us, letting us know what Keiretsu stands for in terms of Startup Visa as an angel investor group. And thank you for the long association we have had. It's been a learning opportunity for me, for IQ, our team. And again, attendees, if you have follow-up questions, we'll bring Kevin back. And Kevin, we started with around 40 people. We stayed at 40. So if we can keep people together for 1.5 hours, I think so it's been a very successful webinar. We will make sure that you all get the right information that you need to sail through the Startup Visa process. That's what we want you to know. Please make sure you take the right decision when you choose the designated entity and when you choose the right service providers in Canada. On that note, thank you so much again for your time. Kevin, last words.
Thanks for having me. And listen, I'd encourage everybody who's listening from around the world, do reach out to IQ, get the ball started. Even if your idea stage, right, you can accelerate that very, very quickly to a point where it becomes investable. And so, no idea is a silly one. We see all kinds of applications from all types of industries, things I've never thought of before. I didn't even know were a problem. And that's what I find most exciting. So please do us a favor of connecting and telling us what you're about and what you'd like to do here in Canada. We're happy to have you.
And thank you so much, Kevin. And thank you, Uros, for arranging everything. Thank you, everyone. Hope to see you all soon. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Take care. Bye-bye.